everyone, I'm Mr. Kovac, co-founder and CEO of DroneTalks, and today I'm talking with Okeoma from Zipline, who is leading the regulatory and policy department there. Hi, Okeoma.
Hello, it's so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Thanks for accepting my invitation. So just, as a first question, how did you get into drones? Why drones? What's the story behind?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story because I'm a lawyer by training, and I started my career in aviation finance. And initially, I worked with commercial airliners, a lot of the global airliners, not just here in the U.S., but I worked with British Airways, Virgin Australia, doing aircraft financing, getting aircraft into fleet, and then transitioned into the helicopter space. And so the helicopter space was going through a sort of a restructuring, a financial restructuring. So they were looking for corporate finance, aviation finance to bring into that industry. And so I got recruited into the helicopter space, didn't know anything about helicopters, but that's where I learned a lot about operations, about maintenance, about sort of the hardware and the nitty gritty of aviation. And while I enjoyed that work, it wasn't an industry that I thought I could see myself in long term. And so I actually left aviation, and I thought I needed to reset. I clearly was in the wrong industry, and I needed to find something that was more creative, more innovative, that was a little bit younger. I went into helicopters. I was at a 75-year-old company, and I sort of inherited 75-year-old problems, and I wanted to be at the front of something. And then drones sort of came into the picture, and Zipline was looking to bring on an aviation sort of specialist professional to help them through the regulatory process. And I had honestly only just started to hear about drones. I had been at an aviation finance conference, and there were some folks there from air mobility, and that was the first time I'd ever heard of air mobility and autonomous vehicles in the air. And so that sort of turned on the wheels got turning. So when I heard about Zipline, I have a background in international criminal law. I went to the University of Amsterdam. I studied it in The Hague. I've worked at the UN. And so it felt like it was all coming together.
Yeah.
My background in aviation, which I was trying to get away from, my background in humanitarian work, which I was hoping to get back to, all of a sudden this opportunity came that I could really bridge the gap and do something where I was having the impact I had hoped to have. And so I guess the answer to that is I got lucky.
No, I think it's very impressive. What you did is just wow. I get a lot of experience, and wow. I think this is what we need in the industry. A lot of experience to bring to this new innovative field, and we can build on that. So it's really, really fascinating. So what Zipline is doing nowadays, this year, because, we heard a lot about fantastic success what Zipline has, but what is the latest,
Zipline has had a really busy year. For folks who don't know, Zipline is a commercial delivery platform. We design, manufacture, and operate all our own aircraft. We're best known for our work in Rwanda doing blood delivery. But just this year alone, we've launched operations. We've expanded operations in Ghana. So now we're serving Ghana nationwide. We've introduced operations in Japan. We've launched operations in Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
We got our Part 135 here in the U.S. And by the end of this year, we'll have launched operations in Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, and at least one more state in the U.S. So we are very, very busy. And just in terms of how we're scaling, I recently learned that we did more flights in the month of August than we did in all of 2019.
Wow,
so
it's booming. It's expanding.
Booming. To date, we have over 380,000 commercial flights.
Wow. Okay, it's booming and it's fantastic, but how do you get into countries where the regulatory framework is not really exist or not really supporting, because you are a specialist on that, right? So I'm just thinking, if there is a need in one country, whatever country, for first you need to kind of break through the policy and regulatory barriers. So how can you do that? What's the secret?
Yeah, I think one of the things we've learned is, laws and regulations are intended to serve the communities. They're intended to serve the public and the countries in which they exist. And so when we have strong local partners through the government, through industry, that's where we find the most success. So whether it's Ministry of Health, whether it's a strong corporate partner, having a partner that really serves that community and whose impact is prioritized by the whole government really encourages the government to find a way. And I think it is the wrong approach to try to create regulations without knowing what you're trying to facilitate through that regulation. And so I think we've just been really lucky. And so, the Ministry of Health is often our partner in some of these countries, but like in Japan, we had Toyota, which is a strong corporate partner who had those deep relationships, so who could help facilitate that regulatory process for us. And that's where we found the most success. And we're doing similar things here in the US. Obviously, the US is a much bigger country. It's a much more complex framework, but leveraging the experience we have building those relationships is been working slower than we would like, but we've been finding some success.
That sounds amazing. And I think the keyword is partnership, you know, like alone, no one really can change the world. Like you need to kind of understand the capabilities of the other industries and the needs. And I think this is what Zipline does amazing. They understand the health industry. You build up relationships there and you find solution for their problem, right?
Absolutely.
Because from an outsider, this is how Zipline come across, you know, in the house and blood delivery, but I see. So regarding next steps, like which area or which other operations you exploring with Zipline? Is there any secret what you can share? If not, just pause the question.
Yeah, so there's a couple. I think what you'll see is that we've really expanded beyond medical delivery, and we really expanded beyond developing nations, because what we're learning and what COVID has taught us, what the continued climate crisis has taught us, is that access issues and sustainability issues are a global priority, as they should be. And this technology has the ability to solve some of those problems. And so with that in mind, we are partnering with retail partners, because like in the US over the summer, we had a baby formula shortage. And if we had been authorized, how many families could we have helped during that crisis to deliver baby formula? Instead, there were families driving 3, 4, 5 hours a day to try to find a store that carried baby formula. If that could have been centralized and distributed it to people who need it, where they need it, when they need it, how much easier would life? Right now, there's a water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi here in the US. How could drones help facilitate that? And so we think about developing countries as not having these access issues, but these access issues occur, and it's not just for medical products. Sometimes it is for retail products. And then when you also think on the environmental perspective, we as a society and as a culture are becoming more dependent on quick delivery. I don't know if Europe is the same as the US, but we like being able to order things and get it quickly, whether it's food or and I think COVID increased the pace of that consumer demand and changed consumer behavior. And so, but that's not sustainable for our roads. It's not sustainable for our communities. I think if we had less cars on the roads, we would all be better off for it. And so there's just so many things, and that's what drives me. Right? Is there's so many applications in which this technology could make our lives better. And it doesn't have to be that sort of dramatic mother giving birth, doesn't have blood. And so we have to get the blood to her. Sometimes it is just as simple as you're cooking dinner for your family. You forgot to get one thing at the store. Do you put your husband in the car to drive all the way to the store to get the one thing?
Or you just order
it by drone?
But I think this is the next step for drones to get to the norm. To get to that, hey, I use a drone for this or this and this. And I think this is the next breakthrough, in my opinion. And regarding the problem solving, and this is really just came to my mind in this moment, but in Europe, the biggest crisis currently is the fuel crisis. I'm not sure in the US, something similar, but in Europe, because we get more the gas, from different suppliers. We have this unfortunate war, and we have a lot of fuel problem. And I think drones is a solution. Is that it's like fuel free? You can deliver. And you can solve a lot of crises, which is there. So it's like a problem solver solution.
And it also addresses a sustainability issue that we're all trying to address. We need to be less fuel dependent. So I think that we think very sometimes narrowly about the impact that this technology can have in our communities. But as we were talking before we started, I'm a mom of 2 kids, and I would love to have more time with them and less time running errands. Right? Like I would love for us to get back to a time where there are more neighborhoods where kids can play in the streets. Yeah. And the way you do that is people are driving around less. Yeah. Right. And so how do we get to that place? And I think I have the dreamer in me envisions a world where we take some of that road use and we really move it to the sky and we open up the roads for us to live on and for us to utilize as communities.
It makes sense. And in my personal opinion, we're living in Switzerland and we had a little survey in Switzerland and it says people are happy to pay even more for the service. What they are aware, the service is sustainable. It delivers quick, they solve their problem and they are totally ready, even if it's a little bit higher on cost, you know. But if solves the problem, it's sustainable and this is what people need. So it seems like it drives the adoption and drones meet with those requirements, I guess, because this is always the question. Drones are going to deliver for a higher, cost. And I think there's no problem with that to me. What do you see if that's a question?
Yeah, I think though, if you're just comparing the cost of the drone delivery and the cost of like a truck delivery, yes. But then if you sort of bake in all of the cost, the infrastructure costs associated with maintaining roads, the labor costs, and labor costs are just going to continue to go up over time, right? And this technology, the cost of this technology is going to go down over time, right? As the technology gets better, as we get through these initial hurdles. And so as a community, as a society, where do we want to invest in? Do we want to invest in these things that are just going to get more and more expensive? Or do we want to sort of make the leap and invest in a technology that we think will actually over time be more cost effective? And I think our partners see that vision and are ready to invest a little bit more now on the front end because they know in the long term it will be a cost saving. Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Okeoma, for this great interview. I think it's a fantastic closure. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.